pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was stationed at Schofield Barracks, and I was Army in the United States Army, 25th Infantry Division, combat engineer. And what I done, my hometown buddy was a submariner, and his sub had come in about a week before that, and he called me at Schofield Barracks, and he wanted to get together with us, with another buddy of mine, Joe Bosco, and we wanted to have a good time on the town while he was in. So I got down to the submarine base and looked him up and finally found him. And we got together and went around Honolulu, took in things, Black Cat Cafe and so forth, had nice beers. And then we went back to the submarine base and he took me down to his sub that he was stationed on. And he pointed out different places and where his bunk was and everything. So then after I met his commander too, he introduced me to his commander. So we got back out of the sub and went back up on the base there to the temporary barracks that he was in. And we passed quite a bit of time there talking about the old school days and so forth. And then that evening there, I wanted to go back to Schofield Barracks. I told Joe Bosco, that buddy of mine, I said, Joe, let's get back to the barracks. I said, we don't want to, we'll come down to next week and see him again. And he talked me into staying there. He said, no, he says, these bunks are empty. He said, it's just after payday. The guys are out on the town, and he says, half of them are even gone, they're celebrating. And so I don't know how it was, but I got to talked into staying there. So I stayed there that evening there at the bunks. And the next morning I had breakfast with the few that was left over there, and went outside on like a porch that they had overlooking the bay, and everything. And the ships out there, I could see the ships and everything. But not being a sailor, I didn't know the names of the ships or anything. I didn't know them. So it wasn't long after I was reading that newspaper there, I heard this great big noise, or awful noise in the air. And these guys here in the Navy, they ought to remember that. There was a bunch of planes coming around from down near Koli Pass. They didn't come over the pass, it was another pass, like Gunsight Pass, that they were coming down, and they split in three waves. One wave went to Kaneohe Naval Air Station on our side of the island. The other wave came down through Schofield Barracks and everything to hit Wheeler Field. And then the other wave was coming down, they made a circle, coming around. And the first thing you know, they were looking at them and everything, and I finally saw torpedoes dropping out of them. That was the first ones. And the guy says, what's that? And I said, torpedoes are coming on there. I says, and every guy says, hey, he says, that's the Japanese. See, they read something and everything. Yep, we had it. And then I hollered out, torpedo come down and hit the ships down there. And come to find out later that it was the Oklahoma that was hit first with a torpedo. And then there were these other guys dropping torpedoes down, come down, then they were dropping bombs. They were coming across the submarine base area there. It got down real low and to hit Wheeler Field. That's when they knocked out almost all them planes at Wheeler Field. But in the meantime, when they were doing that, the fellow sailors were just running all around. They were crazy. Kids, they were young kids. They didn't even know what was going on. I was 23 years old. I was the old man, they called me. So I asked the guys there, one guy come out there, the sailors, and I says, where's your ammunition and your guns? I said, you got to get them out of here. And in the meantime, when I was saying that, they were coming out with a couple of machine guns, and I don't know if where they got them or anything. They come out with the guns, but didn't know anything about setting them up. So Joe Bosco and I put the machine guns together, and as these planes were just flying around and everything, we got fired. And then I told them, I said, when them planes come over here, I said, shoot at them. They're enemy planes. And I had to show the guys in the Navy there how to do it. But there was a couple of old timers that were in there in the Navy, and they know a little bit about it. But the thing was, I don't know where the guns come from. If there was the Marines down there,
I can tell you.
evidently they had Marines had. So we started firing at them, and I showed them. I said, when them planes come over there and shoot them, I said, they're enemy planes, let it go. So I fired around 50 rounds in the planes coming over, and the pilots were coming down so doggone low that you could see them. I mean, and some of the fellas there, and sailors, and they were just young kids, were waving at them. And I said, the hell we're waving at them? I said, those are enemy planes, you know. Well, in the meantime, I says, hey, I got to get out of here and get back to Schofield because I've got the keys to the ammunition lockers and weapons lockers. And everything on that time was under double lock and key. And I'm going to tell you one thing, he was in the Navy, but they weren't firing because their ammunition was in the hold under double lock and key, because that was the whole division and the fleet and everything in the Army at that time. And that's why they were late in firing. And they were the only ones that I know remember firing in the ships was there was a submarines there that was firing at the ships, and another one, a small ship, and I found out later that it was a destroyer. I didn't know a destroyer for a minute, but that's the way they told me. But in the meantime, I got back to Schofield Barracks, and when I was there, the boys of my company were trying to take the bars off the windows there to get in to get the ammunition and the guns out. Well, I caught hell for being late and everything like that, but I told them what was on. I told them about Pearl Harbor being bombed, the ships were being bombed, torpedoes and everything. And I said, the water's even on fire down there. Was that right?
Yes.
The water was on fire. Guys jumping off the ships and everything like that. I was telling them about it. So in Schofield there, we got out 330 calibers and 250 caliber machine guns behind our pillars. And at that time there, the second wave came down. They were coming down through Schofield. So I told the boys, I said, after telling them what the score was, I said, when the planes come down, I said, fire at them. So we did. We fired at the planes from Schofield and everything. And about, I don't know how long it was or anything like that, but it seemed like in no time at all, it was all over with. But you could see the smoke from Pearl Harbor from Schofield. Schofield was only 8 miles from there. And then they had, let's see, Wheeler Field, right close to Schofield. That was all on fire because they knocked out all the planes out of Wheeler Field. That's where the 2 pilots got out of Wheeler Field. And then they knocked out every plane on Hickam Field. They cleaned that out. The Canyon Naval Air Station was just wiped off the map and everything that I found out later and everything. So everything was just about all over with then, and then we secured the islands after that. And of course, me being in the combat engineers and everything, we were the 25th Infantry Division. We were the first ones to land on Guadalcanal in the Solomon Islands. And I was in 4 major battles. I was in of course, Pearl Harbor, then I was in the Battle of Guadalcanal. That was the first one was in it. After that, we went to New Georgia in the Solomons, none of it. We took the islands there and took the airfield so our planes could make a landing there to be closer to hit Japan. And then from there I was in the northern Solomons, smaller islands and everything like that, all ground troops. And we was in, I almost hate to say it, Guadalcanal in New Georgia was one of the roughest, toughest battles anybody, and it was the bloodiest battle. You hear about Iwo Jima. Guadalcanal was the first one, and we were in the battle, and I was in the ground forces. So don't tell me anything about fighting in a war. And that's where, and then I was on one of the islands on Rendova over there, and that's where I got hit. I got 2 bullets in the back there, and I still got shrapnel in me, and they got a piece of shrapnel or something in my left lung that every time I get x-rayed, they say, "You got an unidentified object in your left lung. What is it?" I said, "Hell no." But I was told to leave it alone because in case they check that out, my lung would drop. So I don't know what I got. But
Wow.
Nobody knows what it is. They looked at it and I said, can't you find out what it is on an x-ray or anything like that? And they said, no, we don't know what it is.
Well, I hope they don't do an MRI on you.
It would suck right through it, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
Oh.
Last year, they had for me a happy birthday 95, a great big cake.
My goodness.
And had all decorations on it, and everybody that came in there through the day, they gave them a piece of cake, and I think that lasted 2 days.
That was nice though.
And they're gonna have the same thing again this Wednesday. They're gonna have they make a big cake for me, and they're gonna have happy birthday done.
Well, that's nice.
Wow.
That's good.
That's a restaurant up there.
Yeah. Well, hey,